Lesson, we are going to be discussing the answers to the questions I had given to you guys regarding William Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day? Okay, so guys, this is a very important lesson. Reason being, I'm going to show you in this lesson how to attempt answering poetry questions. All right, so if you answer in the method that I'm teaching you, you will be able to first of all break down the question, right, and really understand what the question is trying to ask you, and be able to structure your answer in such a way that it's complete. All right, there's no reason why I would mark you down on that answer. Okay, so the first question says, provide 3 connotations attached to the idea of nature. So a connotation is like a general idea or general emotion attached to something. So if you look at the word home, right? If I open the dictionary and I look for the word home and I look for its definition, it's going to say something like a place where people reside, right? A place where a family congregates and basically lives, right? But if I have to ask you about how you feel about home and how the general population feels about home, you're going to tell me that home is where the heart is, right? Whenever we think about home, we think about warmth, we think about comfort. Those are the connotations attached to the word home. So I'm asking you to provide 3 connotations attached to the idea of nature, right? And not just random connotations, but connotations that the author here, William Shakespeare, has provided for us in the poem. So if we look at this poem, and I'm going to basically indicate all the places where William Shakespeare talks about how he feels about nature, right, in comparison to the lover. And we already know that he views nature as inferior. Inferior is not as great, not as splendid as the lover. So there are a few tells that tell us what exactly he feels about nature, right? The first thing is the word temperate, right? He calls his lover more temperate than nature. And when we look at the word temperate, temperate means constant. Temperate means something that doesn't change. It's the perfect balance of something. Okay, it's not, we say that when someone, you shouldn't be too sweet, right? You shouldn't be too salty. You should like have a good balance, right? So that's basically how this lover is. But nature, on the other hand, is not temperate. Nature is unbalanced. So that is one connotation attached to nature. The second connotation attached to nature is that of to be destructive, right? It has rough winds that shake and destroy the vegetation around, right? And lastly, actually not lastly, but thirdly, the third connotation is that nature has too short a date. It ends too quickly. It's unpredictable, all right? Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines. Yeah, sometimes, nature is, when I talk about nature, I'm basically talking about summer, right? What is his connotation about summer? Because summer is a part of nature, right? He feels like nature is unpredictable when he talks about how on one day his golden complexion is dimmed, and on the other day the eye of heaven shines so brightly, right? So some days it's too hot, other days it's too cold. You can't really relax when and enjoy nature because it's so ever changing, unpredictable, withering, right? Also, I'm giving you more than 3 connotations, so you guys can just choose 3 of this, right? And also, nature's ever-changing course is untrimmed. So as I said before, nature is constantly changing, and it has no constant, it has no grounding. And we as humans, we love to feel grounded, we love to feel strong and rooted within a belief system or an idea of someone or something, right? But nature doesn't give 2 craps about being constant. All right, so in order to structure your answer for this, you would say nature as portrayed by the author is that of is that of ever changing, unpredictable. Can you see how this is not necessarily what scientists have said about nature, right? Nature is not, and nature is probably unpredictable, but the author is attaching the emotion of you're not enough, right? Nature is just not enough, right? Yeah, you can even say nature is just not enough, not enough, because, right? Nature is not enough because in nature beauty will always fade, right? um you know things age, nature ages, right? It is destructive as thought of by the author. So you as an individual may not feel that nature is destructive, but the author definitely feels that it is destructive. Okay, so if you give me an answer like this, you tell me that the author feels that nature is not enough, because that's the main feeling, right, that you get when you read this, when you read about nature from the author's perspective. You need to give me reasons why you say that the author feels this way. So you're going to get like 1 mark for this, 1 mark for telling me a general whole perspective of how the author feels, and then the rest of your marks are going to go into telling me why you say this. How can you prove this? Can you back up your answer? All right. Okay, moving on. Number 2 says, what is the mood? Oops. Sorry, guys. Just a second. It's crazy how you can just press on something and it takes you to, you don't even know it. Okay. What is the mood of the first 2 quatrains? Use the diction of these lines to aid you in identifying the mood. So I've given you the second part of the sentence is something I don't even need to give you, right? I don't even need to hint and tell you to use diction, right? Whenever I ask you for mood, I'm basically asking you to use diction, and diction is what kind of vocabulary does the author use in order to identify how he's feeling, how he's making you feel, when you read this poem. So let's go into that quickly. So the first 2 quatrains is basically this over here and this one over here. I'm going to use a pretty color here, maybe like purples. Yeah. Okay, so we have to look for diction. We have to look for words that give us hints on how this author is feeling. First of all, let's see. The words rough winds, right? Or rather the word rough, just the word rough on its own. The word rough tells me that, first of all, the author feels that nature is rough, right? Summer is rough. It is violent, destructive. Okay. What else? Okay, shorter date here as well. That's also telling me that time is fleeting. Also gives me an indication. Like you kind of feel, it makes you feel incomplete. All of these words, right? All of these words make you feel like it's just not enough. This author's just not getting enough of nature. Too hot, right? Dimmed is also an important diction here. Declines, right? When something declines, it moves down, it becomes less of. Untrimmed is, is also a very important word because In the context of this line, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed, nature will always be unpredictable. It will always be changing. Okay. So, you guys, if we look at all these words here all together, I don't know, in my opinion, it makes me feel, all these words make me feel that nature is, it gives a mood of unpredictability, right? It gives a mood of inferiority, right? It also, it, it kind of puts down nature, right? You could say demotivates nature, right? And it elevates the lover. It elevates how this lover is meant to be portrayed in the poem. All right, guys. So I'm just going to show you how you would structure that in your answer. Okay, so guys, if I were to write an answer answering what the mood of the first two quatrains is, I would first of all look at the mark allocation. So this is for 4 marks, which means that I need to give a point, right? I need to tell my reader what is the mood, the general mood of these 2 quatrains, and also back up my proof, right? Back up my point with proof from the poem. And lastly, just give a sentence that wraps up everything together. So I'm going to show you how that looks. The poet uses words that show his disapproval and obvious attachment of inferiority towards nature in the poem, right? So the mood here is, it's sort of giving off an like this inferiority attached to nature, right? And how does he do that, right? It's kind of like a mood of disapproval as well, right? And he's just like, you would say he's pessimistic. The mood can also be pessimistic. When you're pessimist, you just find the bad and the wrong in everything, right? How does he do this? He makes us feel that nature is destructive, right? That's one very important way that he is pessimistic. And I'm going to write here. He has a pessimistic view of nature. Right, guys, this can solely be your opinion, right? In poetry, there's so many different views and opinions. The only thing that matters is, can you back up that opinion, right? How do you back it up? You back it up with proof, and and I'm going to show you how I've done it here, right? So he makes us feel that nature is destructive, right? When he says that the rough winds of May destroy vegetation, and that nature is unpredictable and ever changing, by using words like untrimmed, and also indicates that the lover is more stable and reliable than nature, because he or she is more temperate, which is the opposite of balance and well-maintained. So when we read this, we're really not having a good feeling about nature. We're feeling all these things that he's trying to make us feel. He's trying to make us feel like we can't rely on nature, right? We can't rely on nature. And then I've put a final conclusion here, and I've said, in all, the author gives off a sense of unsafety and inferiority around the topic of summer and nature in general, and also batters down nature in order to exalt his beloved. So in order to make his beloved look like the be-all and all, the most beautiful thing that ever existed, he needs to bring down nature, right? He needs to show how nature pales in comparison to his beloved. The mood, you can also say that the mood is haughty and proud, as he proudly expresses his unshakable opinion of nature, right? You could almost say like he's ungrateful. It's also a mood of ungratefulness, or maybe, yeah, just tell me how you feel when you read it, and can you back it up with words from the poem? Okay, compare the mood of the third quatrain with quatrain 1 and 2. So we know that the mood in quatrain 1 and 2 is that of okay, I'm going to write this down and then I'll share it with you guys. Okay, so if we look at quatrain 3, right? Let's look for diction words that tell us a little bit about how we feel, how the author is feeling about this paragraph or this subject. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. nor shall death break thou wondrous in his shade, when in eternal line to time thou goes. So here he's very confident in the fact that his beloved is the most beautiful, is the most fair, is eternal, all right, will grow more beautiful and more radiant with time, right, as time goes, all right. So here we can say the mood is confident, the mood is maybe even boastful, all right, proud. And can you see that he's unshakable in his truth about this beloved of his? All right, very, very, very confident. Like he doesn't say, I'm guessing, oh, I think it will not fade. He says it shall not fade. He says nor lose possession. It's like he's stating, I don't know, the laws from the Constitution or something like that, right? He's really just laying it out for us. And he's, yeah, so very confident, and we're going to use that, how he's feeling in these lines, and that is basically the mood of that line. Okay, so this is how I would like you guys to structure your answers, more or less. So we are asked to compare the mood from quatrain 1 and 2. All right, so I've written here, the mood in quatrain 1 and 2 is that of inferiority and disapproval, right, of nature in comparison to the beloved's beauty, right? Whereas the mood in quatrain 3 expresses the author's admiration and also expresses the reasons for why the lover is better and more exalted than nature can ever be. Okay, now the guys, can you see this is my point. It's a strong point that I'm making. I need to back up that point, right? He shows his utter conviction in the everlasting nature of his beloved through the word eternal. He is confident that his lover will grow in beauty with time and shall never die or succumb to the fate of time, rather. Right. It is a mood of confidence, pride, and unshakable conviction in the everlasting beauty of his beloved, as opposed to the first and second quatrain, which describes nature as the opposite of everlasting. Okay, so this middle paragraph here gives me the proof. Now, can you see how I have, if I wanted to quote direct words from the poem, I put it in direct quotation marks there, right? And then the other parts I didn't want to quote from the poem, so I just put it in my own words, right? You don't have to put it in quotation marks as long as you put it in your own words. Moving on, what are the 4 qualities of the lover described by the poet? I'm just going to give this to you verbally. The lover lasts forever, unlike nature. The lover is constant, temperate, never changing, always beautiful. Third characteristic, the lover grows in beauty each and every day, each time, with the lines of time, for as long as men can see, for as long as life exists, basically, for as long as we read the poem. And one more quality, what can we think of? Okay, death never comes to the lover, because the lover is immune to death, right? This lover cannot be afflicted with death. He or she is everlasting, eternal, lives on forever, infinite, right? What do you think is the purpose of this poem? Describe it in your own words. So guys, for the purpose of this poem, don't just tell me, refrain from saying answers like it's to educate people, or it's to make people realize that time is eternal, or whatever. You need, just say you give me an answer like that, you need to back it up, right? So obviously it's your personal opinion. Poetry is all about your opinion, right? But you need to be able to know how to back up and substantiate that opinion, because that's what makes it so beautiful, and that's what makes you worth listening to, right? So in my opinion, the purpose of this poem is the author wants to show how art defies death. Art is beauty. Beauty that is captured in art is exempt from ever dying, right? It's infinite. It is everlasting, right? It is it will always live, and it cheats death. Okay, and he wants to show that when we capture something, right? If you take a photograph of someone, you always have that with you. It will be a living part of this person. It will live on forever. Even though, not to say that it's a physical living part, the person's dead, right? But the spirit of that person, the feeling that accompanies that person, lives on forever. For as long as you look at the photograph, for as long as people read the poem, all right, this lover will keep on being reborn into reality because we're remembering him or her. Okay, yeah, you can go really deep into this. You can really explain your idea of what the purpose of the poem is. And just for exam purposes, look at the mark allocation. Do not give me a long paragraph if it's only for 2 marks, but in a normal case scenario, go crazy. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and this is the kind of answers that you are expected to give until you reach matric and further on. So if you can master this, and it comes with learning how to express yourself and learning how to prove your statement, then you will be absolutely fine.